Well, welcome back to Mohawk Motors, everybody. My name is Jason, and today I'm actually going to wrap this video. Well, let's start over. I'm going to start this video out as I'm wrapping up for the day. I've been down here in the workshop. I got a bunch of stuff going on, but first thing you can see here is the silver truck. You notice it's got the nice wheels on it. My paperwork came back from the state. This thing is tagged, registered, insured, legal, and I've already put about 100 miles on it. And I'll tell you, this is the first GMT 800 I've had with a manual transmission, and it's fun to drive. Now that said, it's an HD truck, and you can tell it's an HD truck. It does not shift like a Corvette or a Camaro, but it's still a blast to drive this thing around. And everywhere I've taken it, I've had people looking. So I'm really excited about this thing. I'm gonna keep putting some miles on it. Everything is working, ironically, except the radio. I've heard of people having issues with the factory radios in these trucks. I've never personally had one go bad, but sure enough, I was driving this thing around last night and the radio doesn't work. Fortunately, I have another one. It's the same exact radio. And my father-in-law is a technological wizard, and he can reprogram the correct VIN number into that replacement radio. So next time he comes to visit, he's gonna get that radio programmed for me so I can put it in there. Should work like a charm, and we'll be good to go back in business on this thing. Not that we're not in business now. I mean, it's fun to drive around. So, pretty pumped about that. You may have noticed over here, I've got a Suburban up on the lift. This is not my Suburban. I have a family that would merit a Suburban, but this one isn't mine. This one belongs to a gentleman named Brandon. He actually found me through the channel. Shout out to you, Brandon. And got a hold of me through Instagram and asked if I would be able to help him out with this truck. His long-term goal with this thing is to have it be kind of a bug out / camping rig. And he's already gotten a good start on it. He's replaced everything in the front end with upgraded kryptonite components. He's got I think it's a 2-inch or a 2.5-inch lift kit on the truck. Some larger tires, BFG all-terrains. I love these tires. They are great all-around tires. He's had the transmission rebuilt. You see that I have the transmission out. Unfortunately, when the last people replaced the transmission, I guess they didn't advise Brandon, or they didn't emphasize to him that it's a really, really good idea to replace the rear main seal when you have the transmission out. And of course, his rear main seal started to leak. So, and it was a substantial leak. So we're gonna get that fixed for him. You can see I got the transmission out. I've been under here getting things cleaned off. And this is, I mean, it looks like the original rear main seal. So she's served her time. The truck's got over 200,000 miles on it. I've got everything cleaned off now that I'm not gonna get totally disgusting and filthy. Replacing this rear main seal. And I've got a nice brand new AC Delco rear main seal here. But that's gonna be where I pick up tomorrow. That's it for today. And we're doing some other stuff on the truck. I already had the broken tie rod end, so we replaced, or excuse me, sway bar link. So we've got new sway bar links in here. Those are actually a little bit better than factory, all steel. And I've got some other parts too. Gonna do a full tune-up, new plugs, new wires. He's got some broken exhaust manifold bolts. We're gonna get all the exhaust manifold bolts repaired. Valve cover gaskets, an oil change. A new gasket between the transfer case and transmission adapter. That was leaking on him as well. But we're gonna get this thing all sealed up and buttoned up. You'll see more of it next time I'm down here. And last but not least, you see I've got the silver single cab in here. forcing my hand. This thing is finally going to get the attention it's needed. The rockers and cab corners are going to get replaced. Obviously, if you saw my recent video, it needs a new transmission. So we'll probably get a 4L80 torn down here sometime in the near future and start getting a parts list together on what we need for that. And I'm just gonna keep chipping away at stuff, guys. Lots going on. I'm so excited to have this truck legal, finished, on the road, aside from that little radio hiccup, which we'll get taken care of. And hey, maybe the next thing you see, we'll take this thing out for a ride. Well, it's next evening, everybody, and I'm back down here getting after it. I'm working on the Suburban again. Man, sorry, you're linty. You can see I got the welder out. I'm getting started on the exhaust manifolds. He had 3 broken exhaust manifold bolts over here on the driver's side. I think there's 3 over on the passenger side also. I can't remember. But I figured now that I've done the rear main seal, you can see here's the old one I took out. The new one is in there. I'll show you before I put everything back together. But before I put the transmission back in and connect the exhaust back up and all that stuff, now's probably gonna be the easiest time to do these exhaust manifold bolts and gaskets. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go with the tried and true weld on the end, weld a nut, and then twist it out. And you can see my second to last bolt here on the driver's side broke off at the head, so I've got a little bit of shank sticking out that I can weld to, but the all the way rear bolt is broken off below the surface. The all the way forward bolt is broken off but below the surface. So on those, I'm gonna have to build up a little bit of weld and then get a nut welded to it and then hopefully get them backed out. This is in my opinion, this is the lowest risk and most likely to work method. That said, it does not always work on the first try. The ones where it breaks off at the head of the bolt, there's some shank sticking out. Usually I can get a good weld on those and get them out in the first try, but the ones broken off below the surface, like the other 2, it usually takes me a few tries and a little bit of weld to it, weld the nut, twist it off, try again, twist it off, try again. So we'll see how many tries it takes. I'll show you the aftermath because there'll probably be a pile of nuts laying on the floor here by the time I'm done. But I do have the battery disconnected, and I'm just gonna get to it. If there were a better angle, I'd try to show you what I'm doing, but you just have to kind of take my word for it. Team, maybe today's my day, knock on wood. But I only had 1 failed attempt on this side. I've got my 3 broken off with nuts welded on, and you can see here my 1, that one was on the rear. First attempt twisted off, but second attempt got it. So we've got all our broken exhaust manifold bolts out. I'm gonna get my gasket surface cleaned up. I'm gonna get my factory gasket cleaned up. And guys, I've said this before, but I'm telling you, the stock multi-layer steel gaskets, this is the only way to go on these trucks. Don't put those composite, whatever they are, graphite or whatever gaskets on your LS engine. Use the stock multi-layer steel gaskets. They seal up perfect, they last forever, and they are reusable. They are designed that way. So I'm gonna get it cleaned up, grab my new bolts, and get that new manifold poked on, get my new NGK spark plugs put on this side, and then we'll move over and get started on the other side. This is going, I mean, it's been, I don't know, I feel like it's only been like maybe 15, 20 minutes. It almost never goes that quickly. That rear bolt on the driver's side is the hardest one to get when it breaks off in these things. And I think that's the first time I've ever gotten it on the second try. So going well. I'll clean it up, put it back together, and then I'll show you before we get started on the other side. Well guys, driver's side all back together, all new bolts. Got the gasket, stock gasket cleaned up and put back in. Stock manifold torqued down. Both surfaces all cleaned up and everything before I put it back together. So should be good on this side. I just got to stick the new spark plugs in there. And now I'm ready to start on the passenger side. On the passenger side, the only broken bolt I have now is the very front bolt. However, we'll see how many of these other ones break off when I try to get them out of it. I'm betting at least one or two is gonna break instead of coming out. And the thing that can hang you up over here on the passenger side is the oil dipstick tube for the engine. It goes through the manifold. You can't get the manifold off without pulling this tube out. Fortunately on this truck, fortunately / unfortunately, his valve cover gaskets were leaking so bad. I mean, you can just see the oil just running down the heads, that they pre-lubricated everything. And the dipstick tube came right out. So maybe I'm lucky and that oil also pre-lubricated these exhaust manifold bolts, and the other 5 will spin out. But only way to find out is to try it. Let's get this side fixed up. Well, I jinxed myself. Passenger side was a little bit more challenging. Front bolt was broken off at the head. That one came out first try, no big deal. But then of course, like I said, at least one more bolt broke off, and it was the rearmost bolt, which is challenging to get to on this side, just like the other side. And took me 5 tries on that one. Burned up a few spare nuts, as you can see. But we've got them all out now. So we'll get this side all cleaned, scraped, prepped. Get the manifold cleaned, scraped, and prepped. And get the gasket cleaned. Then we'll get this side put back together with our new bolts also. So, a little challenging, but not terrible. Having the welder makes huge, just world of difference. I don't even think I would try this job without a welder. So, let's get it put back together. All right, folks, well, now we've got the passenger side all back together. Got the new spark plugs in, new exhaust manifold bolts, dipsticks back installed. I'll put the new plug wires on after I do the valve cover gaskets. But big progress over here. Stick the new plugs in the other side and then move on to the next challenge. Woo! Fender liner's back in. All that stuff is back together. Now we're on to the next little project here. So, we've got the front differential in this thing. Now, Brandon, when he brought me the truck, he said that he had like I would describe it as a growling noise in the front. And he said he wasn't sure what it was. He said he had the front wheel bearings replaced, which, I mean, you can see these front wheel bearings are they look still brand new. Like, they haven't even started to rust yet. So I took it for a drive, and to me, it sounds like a front differential noise. It's like a bearing that isn't quite right, or something not quite right in there. And then I dropped the differential plug, which I should have recorded it to show you guys. But I dropped the plug out of the differential to check the oil, and there was just metal all over the magnet. And Brandon said that he had a mechanic look at the truck before, and there had been metal on the magnet before in the front differential. So I'm very confident that this front differential is failing. There's also evidence here on the driver's side that this thing has been leaking oil for quite some time. So the front differential needs to be replaced. And fortunately for Brandon, I have good used front differentials because I may or may not be a hoarder and I don't throw things away like I should. So I have a good used front differential for him. And I mean, I'm not saying I should throw front good front differentials away, but how many spare front differentials do you need to keep around? Anyway, I have a good used front differential here. We're gonna get the front differential dropped down out of the truck. I've already got the electrical connector undone, the breather tube undone, the axle shafts undone, and the upper mounting point undone. So then next step is gonna be get the rear mount over here undone, and then the 2 bolts over on this side. And these things, I'm gonna see if I can't wiggle it out without disconnecting the center link, but usually the center link needs to be, you need to unbolt the center link one end or the other in order to get enough clearance to get that top ear down past the center link. So I'm gonna finish getting things unbolted. I'll probably set you back up when I'm finally ready to try to drop it down out of here. All the mounting bolts are out. You can see I've got a tire here on the floor. This one's junk anyway, so if it hits the floor, it really doesn't matter. But I don't want to damage my floor. So if it gets away from me, which often happens trying to wrestle these things out, it'll fall on a tire and not hurt my floor. Yeah, it's too tight. I'm gonna have to undo one side of the center link. Darn it. Let's get the front skid plate out of the way. In case you're wondering, rather than screwing around with all the tapered fits, when I do these, I just undo the pivot, the idler arm. I can take these 2 bolts out. So, I'm going to grab a pry bar. Push it out, like so. And now I can slide that center link forward, which usually gives just enough space. Usually. There she comes. Whoop! Ta-da! There we go. All right, now we just gotta get the good used one up in there. And yes, I checked the RPO codes. Brandon tells me that to his knowledge, it is the stock front differential and stock rear differential. So I checked the RPO codes. We've got 373 gears in this one. I've got a good used 373 front differential that we're gonna stick back in there and fill with fresh new oil. All right, got my good used differential here. right there. Woo! There we go. Now we got to get a bolt. Go. And then one more. Shazam. Get all the bolts started. Stick the breather back on. Man, I gotta tell you, team, I don't miss working on the bottom of these greasy vehicles. I've gotten quite accustomed to getting this stuff that I'm working on clean and blasted and painted. And all of that. Oh, I've misplaced a nut. What did I do with it? Oh, there it is. Definitely like assembling those nice, clean projects. Okay. All right, let's get those bolts tightened and then get everything back together. Well, folks, it's a little after 11. I think it's a good stopping point for the evening. Got the front that good used, new to this truck front differential in, all bolted in, filled with gear oil, electrical connected, breather connected. Got the steering all bolted back in. I am gonna leave the skid plates off until I'm done with the truck, because the last thing I want to do is grease everything, and it'll be easier to grease the idler arm with the skid plates off. But that's all done up there. I can't remember if I showed you or not, but the new rear main seal is in. I've got the back of the engine all cleaned up back here, looking better. And I noticed also his oil pressure sensor was broken. When I pulled the transmission out, I put a new oil pressure sensor in it for him. And as you can see, exhaust manifolds are in place. So tomorrow evening will be get it put the rest of the way back together. Get the transmission back in it, get the transfer case in it, get the drive shafts, electrical, exhaust, get all of that stuff hooked back up, get the fluids all checked and topped off, and then get it down on the ground and get it for a test drive. That's my goal for tomorrow evening, is by the end of the evening be able to take it and drive it, because I would really like to get it back to him by the end of this week. But I need to put a few miles on it before I give it back and make sure that it passes my test, that I'm happy with the work, that everything's doing what it's supposed to do, that we resolved his concerns, and that he can enjoy it. His plan is to do a little bit each year. So I want him to be able to use it and do what he wants with it for the rest of this year. And then next year he can bring it back and we'll do a little bit more. So that's where I'm leaving it tonight. And I don't remember if I showed you, but the new sway bar links, we got those put in. I actually did those yesterday, but those are nice. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, I guess. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's the next evening. I'm back down in the workshop again. I've been chugging away on Brandon's Suburban here for a little bit. And well, I've got the transmission back up in the truck, and I am getting ready to get the transfer case remounted to the back of the transmission. I've got the adapter all cleaned and prepped, ready for the transfer case. And I just got done getting the transfer case itself cleaned and prepped. I suspect, from what I can tell, whoever worked on this last, they either didn't replace the gasket, they just tried, it ripped as they took it off and they just squeezed it back together and hoped it would seal, or they had two gaskets, they didn't clean it properly when they took everything apart, and then they just slapped another gasket in there, and that's why it was leaking. And I mean, you can see how filthy the transfer case is. I think that's partly from the oil leaks, but also largely from this leak. So I'm gonna get this thing heave-hoed back up in there, and then we'll get it bolted up, and then I'll start finagling things in. The trick to these things, at least the way I like to do it, is I like to get the Y pipe out of the truck in one piece. You cannot get the transmission out of the truck with the Y pipe still in place. So I unbolt the flanges from the manifolds, unbolt it back here at the union, and then it'll come loose. The problem is, on the 1500 series trucks and most of the 2500 series trucks that have a single Y pipe, a single piece Y pipe, some of the 2500 series have a left side head pipe and a right side head pipe. But the ones with a single piece Y pipe like this, you can't get them out of the truck with the transmission cross member still in place. And you can't put the transmission cross member in place until after you have the transfer case bolted on, because there's one nut down here at the bottom that you can't access when the mount is on the adapter. So the way I try to do this is I'll use the transmission jack to hold the transmission up high enough that I can get the transfer case on it. Once I have the transfer case securely bolted to the back of the transmission, I'll remove the transmission jack so that the output of the transfer case rests on the torsion bar cross member. And once I have that, then I can wiggle the Y pipe back up into place, and it'll kind of just hang out over here while I get the transmission and transfer case lifted back up, and then get the transmission cross member reinstalled. Once I have the transmission cross member reinstalled, then I can go ahead and get the Y pipe all bolted back up. I could bolt the Y pipe back onto everything before I install the cross member. That would actually be a little bit easier, but I'm waiting on my gaskets that seal the Y pipe to the manifolds. I have new gaskets coming. They won't be here till tomorrow. So I'm just gonna get this thing as far along as I can tonight. So hopefully tomorrow evening, it's just get the exhaust bolted up, double check and make sure I didn't miss anything getting tight, make sure I've got all my fluids filled up, and then get this thing out on a road test and make sure that I've got all of Brandon's concerns resolved, everything is doing what it's supposed to do, and I can get this thing back to him as soon as possible. So let me, gonna give you a fresh battery. We'll get you set up on the tripod, and you can watch me struggle to try to get this transfer case back in here by myself. It's heavy, so that's the challenging part. You gotta finagle it a certain way and then get everything lined up, and it's, I think they weigh 60-ish pounds, so that's a lot to be holding above your head for a minute or so. So let's get to it. I can't remember if I already said this or not, but the transmission is fully attached to the engine. All the bell housing bolts are in, all the little brackets, all the wiring, all of that stuff is already hooked up. It's easiest to do that with the transmission hanging like it is, because you have a little bit more room on the top. So that's how I like to do it. right, there we go. Found my wood blocks. Well, that's all I got. I think that's enough. All right. First failed attempt. My wires are getting in the way. Breather's in the way. Speed. Sensor wire. Is this high enough? I'm not sure. Catch my breath for a minute. Whew. That's the worst part. It's way easier with two people. The thing about it is, you got to get the transfer case, the rear output, over the cross member, but you got to get the whole transfer case back far enough that you can slide the input up here and then onto the output shaft. And it's tricky. And it's not light. And I'm trying to not rip my brand new gasket. Because if I rip the gasket, I gotta get another one. And that's gonna delay me. I don't wanna be delayed. All right. Try this again. There we go. All right, now we get the nuts on it. Do the bottom nut first. Don't forget, driver's side, you have this little bracket that slips over two of the studs, and that's there to help hold your fuel lines up where they belong.
A few moments later.
Well, team, I reached my goal for the evening, so I'm calling it. And it's a little later than I usually like to be down here. A little after midnight, but as I said earlier, I wanted to get this thing to the point that tomorrow I can throw those two exhaust gaskets on the manifolds, get the exhaust all tightened up, grease it, put the wheels on it, top off the transmission, fill it with engine oil, and take it for a test drive. And that's what we've done. So front end is all put back together from yesterday. I've got everything underneath buttoned up, drive shafts in and tightened, skid plate on, all the electrical connections hooked up, skid plate back on, transfer cases filled. It's as together as it can go down here until my gaskets come. I am gonna hit everything with a little brake clean right before I walk out to try to get some of the oil off of the bottom of this thing, because it is just, I mean, it is just saturated with oil from all these leaks. And then tomorrow, when my gaskets come, I'll get my gaskets on, get the exhaust buttoned up like I said. Just remembered, I need to do the valve cover gaskets still. But that won't take super long. Valve cover gaskets aren't too bad, especially since I already have the plug wires off. But yeah, so should be able to get this thing out on a test drive tomorrow. Make sure everything is tip top, doing what it should be doing. Make sure it's not dripping oil like it was before. I mean, this thing at idle was just a steady drip. It was leaking bad. So we should have all these oil leaks taken care of and a few other corrections while we were at it, right? So I'm going in, I gotta get a shower, I gotta get some sleep. I'm with the kids all day tomorrow, and then tomorrow evening back down here to get after it. So we'll see you guys then. Woo! Well, it's the next evening, everybody. My gaskets came, so I got the exhaust all buttoned back up. Got the whole front end greased. Everything took grease well, so that's a good sign. Front wheels back on, obviously. Got it lowered back down. We're gonna get the valve cover gaskets replaced. I'm starting here on the driver's side. Whew, guys, I don't think these valve cover gaskets were doing anything. Look how filthy and oily this valve cover is. I mean, holy smokes. Very messy. So I'm gonna put it in the parts washer and get it cleaned up before I put it back on there, because I just can't put that back how it is. We'll get this side done, we'll get the other side done. We're doing a gauge cluster upgrade in this thing. It's a 1500 series. Brandon asked, he wants to add a transmission temperature gauge. He had bought an aftermarket one, but I told him, if you like a cleaner look, I can upgrade it to a factory 2500 series cluster with a trans temp gauge in it, and we can do that. So I'm going to do that after I get the valve cover gaskets changed and filled with oil. So I'll check back in with you in a little bit. This stuff it's removing, replacing, a lot of cleaning dirty parts. You don't need to watch me do that. That's not very exciting. Well, everybody, it's a few days later from where I left off on Brandon's truck. I did finish up. Got it back down on the ground, finished the valve cover gaskets like I showed you, rotated the tires, checked the tire pressures, and then took it for a test drive. And on the test drive, the noise from the front end was better, but it was not gone. So I brought it back and I've been doing diagnosis for a day and a half-ish, because I really hate just firing the parts shotgun at something. So got it back up on the lift, put it in four-wheel drive, and just let it idle and rotate the wheels in four-wheel drive and get near the truck, near the front wheel, to see if I could determine what it was. And well, long story short, I was about 98% sure that it was the front axle shaft, even though this driver's side axle shaft had been replaced before and had less than 15,000 miles on it. So I called Brandon, talked to Brandon, and gave him my input. I told him, like, I don't think this is going to cause a failure. It's just a driver comfort issue. It's annoying when you're driving. It's loud. I think if we put axle shafts in it, we can get rid of it. I always advocate to replace both axle shafts, because if you have one that's bad, especially one that's already been replaced, the other one, as far as I know, has not been replaced, at least as long as he's owned the truck. So I was like, let's put both axle shafts in it. I'm pretty certain that'll take care of the noise. And then we can also upgrade you to some extended travel, high angle axle shafts. Since he's got the lift kit on it, those will live a little longer and work a little better. Not to mention they're a pretty substantial strength upgrade. And he said, yeah, you've got it, let's do it. So I put the extended travel high angle axle shafts in it. They're the same ones that you just recently saw me put into this silver truck. And I've had them in one of my other trucks in the past as well. And I'm really happy. I've been very happy with them and everything I've put them in. And same here. Took it out for a test drive last night after I got those in. and the noise is resolved. It drives like it should now. The only noise, so to speak, is just the sound of the tires. These are not, obviously these are a more all-terrain design tire, and they just make a little bit more road noise than a stock lateral tread tire. So it's all fixed. Quite a bit of work. That rear main seal is a big job. Guys, if you're ever getting a transmission replaced in one of these trucks, assuming the shop knows what they are doing, I advocate have them put a rear main seal in the engine while they're at it. The seal itself is like 30 bucks. And once you have the transmission out, it literally takes another 10 minutes to replace the seal. And way less expensive to wait until it starts leaking and then have to pull the transmission, do all the stuff that I had to do. But she's good to go now. No more exhaust leaks, and everything's running great. So, little side quest here. Like I said before, Brandon reached out to me through Instagram, was close enough by and had obviously a truck that I'd be interested in working on. So we made it happen, and I'm glad to be able to get this thing all put back together for him. Him and his family can enjoy it for the rest of the summer. I know he's got some camping trips planned and some other travels and adventures planned with this truck, and now he can drive this thing wherever he needs to and not be worried about it. So happy to help him, happy to get some content, and as always, happy to work on another GMT 800 platform truck. So that's it for this one. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.